You know, sometimes life feels like it's spinning a little too fast. We wake up already tired, chasing things we can't quite hold, wondering why peace always seems just out of reach. Maybe you felt that too. Maybe right now, something inside you is whispering that you're holding on too tightly, to people, to dreams, to a version of yourself that no longer fits. And that's okay. You're not alone in that feeling. Stay with me for a bit, because today we're going to talk about something that changed my life. The quiet power of letting go, of trusting that what's meant for you will find its way. And if you ever feel lost on this journey, subscribe to this channel and walk this path with me. We'll figure out together, one breath at a time. There's a story I've always loved. A young monk once received a delicate porcelain cup from his master, a simple gift, yet he cherished it deeply. Every day he admired it, cared for it, protected it. One morning, the cup slipped from his hands and shattered into pieces. He froze, heart sinking. But his master just smiled and said softly, "That cup was already broken from the beginning." At first, those words sound strange, almost cold. But the older I get, the more I understand what he meant. Everything in our lives, every moment, every person, everything we love, is already passing. It's not meant to last forever, and maybe it doesn't have to. You see, detachment doesn't mean we stop caring. It's not indifference or numbness. It's more like holding something gently instead of gripping it so tight that it breaks. We love, but we don't try to own. We hope, but we don't demand. We learn to breathe, to trust that life knows what it's doing, even when we don't. Because maybe the reason we suffer so much is that we keep fighting change instead of flowing with it. We keep saying, "This shouldn't have happened," or "I can't lose this." But life isn't cruel. It's just honest. It gives, it takes, it moves. And when we resist that, we end up exhausting our hearts. Think about it. How many times have you held on to something that wasn't right for you anymore? A relationship that only brought pain? A dream that stopped fitting who you become? We hold on because we're scared. Scared of emptiness, of not knowing what comes next. But letting go doesn't mean losing. It means making space for something new. It means trusting that even if your cup breaks, your hands are still open. There's still room for life to fill them again. I remember a time in my own life when everything I planned just fell apart. I had this idea of how things were supposed to go, and when they didn't, I fought it. I resisted every change, convinced I could control all if I just tried harder. But all that fighting did was leave me tired and anxious. One day I just stopped. I sat in silence and said to myself, maybe this isn't the end. Maybe it's the space before something new begins. That tiny shift, accepting that I didn't need to fix everything, brought more peace than all my struggling ever did. That's the gentle wisdom Buddhism points to, though you don't have to call it Buddhism. It's just life talking to you in a softer voice. It says, hey, you can stop fighting now. You're safe. You don't have to control every wave in the ocean. The truth is, peace doesn't come from holding tighter. It comes from learning how to let the tide carry you, how to trust that you'll still float. So maybe today you can take a deep breath and look around. Whatever is leaving your life, let it. Whatever is arriving, welcome it. You don't need to understand the timing. You just need to stay open. Because when you do, life starts to flow again. You begin to notice small moments of calm, tiny bursts of joy that were always there. You just couldn't see them while you were holding on so tightly. If this message speaks to something in your heart, you might want to stay close. Subscribe, not for the sake of following another channel, but because maybe you need gentle reminders like this, reminders that it's okay to pause, to breathe, to trust. We'll keep walking together through these quiet lessons of life. And who knows, maybe one day, you'll look back and realize that everything that left you was simply making space for everything you were meant to find. Because if it's meant for you, it will come. Always. You know, when things fall apart, it rarely feels like a blessing. Most of the time, it feels like failure. Like you're standing in the ruins of something you built with your whole heart, wondering what went wrong. But what if that didn't go wrong? What if life was quietly rearranging itself to make space for something that fits you better now? I remember once hearing a story about an old monk who lived in a small village. One morning, a wild horse wandered into his yard. The villagers rushed over, saying, "You're so lucky. What a beautiful gift from life." The monk just smiled and said, "Lucky or not, who knows?" Days later, his son tried to ride that horse, fell, and broke his leg. The same people came back, whispering, "How unlucky you are." The monk gave the same calm reply, "Lucky or not, who knows?" Not long after, war broke out, and every young man in the village was sent to fight, except for his son, who couldn't go because of his broken leg. Maybe that's how life works. We see a small piece and call it good or bad, but the story isn't finished yet. Sometimes the door that closes is the one that saves you. And sometimes the pain you're feeling now is just the echo of something better on its way. I know it's hard to believe that when you're in the middle of it. I've been there. You try to hold on to what was, even when it's clear it's time to move on. You keep replaying the past, trying to find a moment you could have done something differently. But life doesn't move backward. It keeps flowing, just like a river. And maybe the river knows something we don't. It doesn't cling to the water that just passed. It lets go, trusting that more is coming. I used to be so afraid of letting go. I thought if I didn't fight for something, I'd lose it forever. But one day, I realized that the things meant for me never really left. They just changed form. They became lessons, memories, strength. The people who walked away didn't take my peace with them. I was the one giving it away by holding on. And then there's that other story, the one about the butterfly. A man saw it struggling to break free from its cocoon and, trying to help, gently opened it. The butterfly came out, but its wings were weak and it could never fly. The man didn't know that the struggle itself was necessary, that it was the effort to push through that gave the butterfly strength. How many times have we done the same? We rush the process. We try to force what isn't ready, to fix what's still forming. But life doesn't need our force. It needs our faith. Maybe you prayed for something that didn't happen, or waited for someone who never came back. Maybe you tried to heal before your heart was ready. But what if the waiting, the pain, the not knowing, that's a cocoon? It's uncomfortable, but it's shaping you into who you're meant to become. You can't open it early. You can only breathe and trust the process. That's what detachment really means. It's not walking away from life. It's walking with life. It's doing your part, but not begging the universe to move faster. Like a farmer who plants his crops, waters them, and then lets them grow. He doesn't dig up the soil every day to check if they're sprouting. He trusts the rhythm of the earth. Sometimes I remind myself, it's okay not to know right now. You don't have to see the full picture to believe it's coming together. You just need to keep showing up with patience, with openness, with kindness toward yourself. Because even when nothing seems to be happening, something is. And one day, you'll look back and realize that every heartbreak, every closed door, every delay, it wasn't random. It was a gentle hand guiding you where you truly belong. So maybe instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You could ask, what is this teaching me? That small change can turn pain into wisdom. If these words bring you a little comfort, take a moment to breathe. Maybe subscribe to this space. Not because I have the answers, but because we're both still learning how to flow with life instead of fighting it. Let's keep reminding each other that even when we can't see the path ahead, it's still there. The river knows where it's going. And so do you. There comes a moment, often quietly, when you just get tired. Not the kind of tired sleep can fix, but the kind that comes from holding on too long. You've tried to plan, control, fix, understand, but life keeps surprising you in ways you didn't ask for. And maybe that's when surrender begins, not with a big decision, but with a whisper. Something inside you says, I can't keep forcing this anymore. Surrender isn't giving up. It's giving in to the flow of life. It's trusting that you don't need to chase what's already meant for you. It's realizing that peace doesn't come from solving everything. It comes from making peace with the fact that not everything can be solved. Maybe that's what the Buddha meant when he spoke about acceptance, not passive resignation, but deep understanding. When we stop arguing with what is, life suddenly feels lighter. You start noticing little things again, the sound of rain, the warmth of sunlight on your face, the way the world still moves, even when you're standing still. It's almost like the universe was waiting for you to stop fighting, so it could finally whisper, now, let me show you what I've been preparing. There's a story I love about a man who spent years trying to control everything. He planned every detail of his life, down to the smallest thing. But one day, a storm came and swept away everything he had built. He fell to his knees, broken, and when the storm cleared, all that was left was silence. But in that silence, something new grew, a kind of freedom he had never known. He said later, when I lost control, I found peace. Maybe that's what happens when we stop fighting life. The moment we release our grip, we make space for miracles. Because life isn't against you. It's just trying to take you where your soul needs to go, not where your mind insists on staying. Sometimes I look back at the things I prayed for that didn't work out, the jobs I didn't get, the people who walked away, the plans that fell apart, and I can see now that each one was a kind of mercy. At the time, I thought I was losing something, but maybe I was being protected from something that wasn't meant to grow with me. It's funny how, when you stop chasing, the right things start finding you. When you stop forcing, the right people show up. When you stop worrying, answers come. Because surrender isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing what you can and trusting what you can't. So maybe tonight, as you sit in the quiet, you can let yourself exhale a little deeper. You don't have to figure everything out. You don't have to keep replaying the past or predicting the future. Just breathe. Maybe say to yourself, it's okay. I'm exactly where I need to be. And the beautiful thing is, once you stop resisting, life begins to move again. Doors open. Clarity comes. Healing happens. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped standing in your own way. If you've been walking through something heavy lately, maybe this is your reminder to loosen your grip. Let life take the lead for a while. You might be surprised how gentle it can be when you stop trying to control it. And if these words find a place in your heart, maybe subscribe not just to the channel, but to a slower way of living, one where peace matters more than perfection, where we listen more, rush less, and trust that everything unfolds exactly when it's meant to. Because in the end, surrender isn't losing control. It's remembering you never had to hold it all in the first place. You're safe. You're growing. And it's all going to be okay. There's a point where words don't help anymore. You've heard all the advice, read all the quotes, replayed every thought in your head, and still your heart feels heavy. That's when life invites you to go quiet, to stop trying to understand and just be. Because sometimes healing doesn't come through thinking. It comes through stillness, through sitting with yourself long enough to remember that peace was never gone. It was just buried under the noise. Maybe that's why silence feels so uncomfortable at first. We've been trained to fill every moment with music, with conversation, with distractions, because silence forces us to face ourselves. It shows us the truth we've been running from, that the things we're chasing outside were never the answer. Love, peace, happiness, they were always waiting inside us, patient and gentle, like an old friend who never left. When I started to practice being still, it wasn't easy. My mind raced. My thoughts screamed. I kept wanting to fix something, to plan something, to do something. But over time, the noise softened. And beneath it, I heard something faint but clear, like a heartbeat. My own presence. The quiet knowing that even if everything fell apart, I was still here, breathing, alive. Enough. Stillness teaches you that you don't need to chase peace. You just need to stop running from it. It's like when the water of a lake settles after being stirred. The reflection becomes clear again, not because it tried harder, but because it stopped fighting. And maybe that's what your soul wants too. Not another goal, not another fix, but a moment to rest. There's this deep calm that comes when you finally stop resisting the moment. You realize you don't need to be anywhere else. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't even need to have it all figured out. You just breathe, and for the first time in a long time, that's enough. You start seeing the beauty in small things, the way sunlight filters through the curtains, the rhythm of your breath, the sound of distant laughter. Life becomes softer, slower, and somehow that slowness starts to heal you. You stop wishing for the next thing and begin to feel grateful for the now. Maybe that's what the Buddha meant when he spoke about enlightenment. Not some distant state of perfection, but simply waking up to the miracle of this very moment. Right here, right now. When you begin to live that way, life stops feeling like something to survive. It becomes something to experience. Every joy, every loss, every sunrise and goodbye, they all belong. They're all part of the same song. And maybe in your stillness, you'll realize that you don't need to chase purpose either. Your purpose is already unfolding through your being, through your kindness, your patience, your presence. The world doesn't need you to be perfect. It just needs you to be real. So tonight, as the noise of the day fades away, maybe you can give yourself permission to rest, to sit quietly and whisper, I'm still here. I made it through. And that's enough. You don't have to heal all at once. You don't have to let go perfectly. Just keep showing up with gentleness. Keep breathing through the uncertainty. Keep choosing softness when the world feels hard. And if these words bring you even a little peace, I'd love for you to stay. Subscribe if you'd like, so we can keep walking this quiet path together, not as teacher and student, but as two souls remembering what it means to be alive. Because in the end, life isn't about control or achievement. It's about presence, about hearing the still voice that says, you're enough exactly as you are. And maybe, just maybe, that's all you ever needed to know. There comes a gentle turning point after the silence, after the long nights of questioning, and the quiet mornings when you stop asking why. It doesn't come with fireworks or grand awakenings. It's subtle. You just wake up one day, look out the window, and realize the pain doesn't hurt as sharply anymore. The air feels a little softer. The sunlight, somehow, find its way back into your chest. That's how the heart opens again. Not all at once, but like dawn breaking after a long night. And maybe you'll notice that life never stopped loving you. Even when you felt lost, it was still guiding you through the mess, through the people who came and left, through the moments that broke you open. It was never punishing you. It was preparing you. Every crack in your heart let a little more light in, even if it didn't feel that way at the time. You begin to see that healing isn't about going back to who you were. It's about meeting the new version of yourself, the one who's softer, wiser, quieter, and more alive than before. The one who no longer needs to rush. The one who knows that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply breathe, trust, and keep your heart open even after everything. It's scary, isn't it? To open your heart again after being hurt. To love again after loss. To trust again after being let down. But that's the beauty of it. Your heart doesn't open because you forget the pain. It opens because you've learned from it. You've learned that love was never the problem. Expectation was. You've learned that you can't control who stays or who leaves, but you can choose to stay kind, to stay soft, to stay open. And maybe that's what real strength looks like. Not the armor you wear to protect yourself, but the courage to stay vulnerable. To let life touch you again, even knowing it might hurt. Because deep down, you know that the only thing worse than heartbreak is living with a closed heart. Sometimes I think of it like a garden after winter. Everything looks dead at first. The soil cracked, the branches bare. But beneath the surface, life is quietly returning. Roots are reaching. Buds are forming, even when you can't see them yet. That's how healing happens, too. You don't have to force it. Just give it time, sunlight, patience, and it will bloom again. You might still have moments when the old pain visits. That's okay. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It just means the memories don't control you anymore. You can look at them, smile softly, and whisper, "Thank you for what you taught me." Because every loss leaves behind a gift. Sometimes wisdom, sometimes strength, sometimes a tenderness that makes you more human. And somewhere in that process, life starts to feel lighter again. You begin to laugh more, trust more, love more. You realize that letting go wasn't about losing. It was about creating space for something new, something real. If you're listening to this and your heart still feels heavy, please remember, you're not broken. You're becoming. Every ending is also a beginning, even if you can't see it yet. Keep walking. Keep breathing. Keep your heart open, even when it trembles. And if these words touch something inside you, maybe stay a while. Subscribe, not just to this channel, but to your own becoming, to the quiet, beautiful unfolding of your life. You're doing better than you think. Because no matter how many times you've fallen, the fact that you're still here means your heart never gave up. It just needed time to remember how to bloom again. And it will. It always does. There's something beautiful that happens when you stop chasing love and start allowing it. Not just love from people, but love from life itself. It's in the quiet mornings when you open your eyes and realize you've made it through another storm. It's in the small kindness of a stranger, the soft wind brushing your cheek, the way the sunset seems to hold you when no one else does. Life has always been trying to love you. You just needed to slow down enough to feel it. For so long, I thought love was something I had to earn. I believed peace was something I had to achieve, and happiness was somewhere out there waiting for me once I got it all right. But the truth is, none of that was ever missing. It was just covered by my own noise, by the fear, the trying, the constant doing. When I finally stopped running, I realized that love had been here the whole time, patient, gentle, waiting for me to come home to myself. That's the quiet secret of this journey. Life isn't asking you to be perfect or strong or endlessly productive. It's asking you to be present, to be open, to be real. Maybe that's why, after all the lessons, all the heartbreaks, all the searching, what we're really learning is how to soften again, to trust again, to let life hold us without needing to control every step. You start to see that the people who left weren't punishment. They were direction. The delays weren't rejections. They were protection. The endings you thought broke, you were simply beginnings wearing disguises. And through it all, life kept whispering, "You're safe. Keep walking." And maybe, just maybe, you start to listen. You stop begging for signs, because everything around you becomes one. You stop asking for proof, because peace itself becomes enough. You realize that you don't have to chase love. It's in the way you breathe, the way you show kindness, the way you stay gentle in a world that tries to harden you. That's love. That's divine. I've learned that the most powerful prayers are the quiet ones, not the ones filled with words, but the ones that sound like surrender, like a deep exhale after holding on too long. You don't need to know what comes next. You just need to trust that whatever it is, you'll meet it with grace. And when you can do that, when you can stand in the middle of uncertainty and still choose softness, that's when you're free. Maybe that's the gift of letting life love you. You stop trying to make things happen and start allowing them to unfold. You stop gripping so tightly, and your hands finally become open enough to receive. You stop fighting for control and realize that what's meant for you has been finding its way all along. And in those quiet, ordinary moments, while you're sipping coffee or watching the rain, you'll feel something familiar rise inside you. A peace that doesn't depend on anything. A love that doesn't need a reason. That's life's way of saying, welcome home. So if these words find you in a moment of doubt or exhaustion, maybe let them remind you, you don't have to fight anymore. You can rest. You can trust. You can let life love you. And if you want to keep walking this path together, maybe subscribe, not out of habit, but as a gentle promise to yourself. A promise to keep showing up for your own peace, to keep softening even when it's hard, to keep letting life surprise you with its quiet miracles. Because in the end, peace doesn't arrive with answers. It arrives with acceptance. And love, real love, isn't something you find. It's something you finally allow. So let life love you, just as you are, right here, right now. There comes a moment when you stop asking when will it happen and start whispering whenever it's meant to. That shift, small as it seems, is the moment peace begins to find you. Because that's when you realize you don't have to chase timing or force alignment or wrestle with uncertainty anymore. Life unfolds in its own rhythm, and it's always on time. Always, even when it doesn't feel that way. For the longest time, I thought my life was behind schedule. I look around and see everyone else moving faster, careers taking off, relationships blooming, dreams coming true, and I'd wonder, what about me? Did I miss something? But maybe I didn't miss anything. Maybe I was being held back just long enough to become the kind of person who could actually hold what I was praying for. Sometimes delay isn't punishment, it's preparation. You see, when you plant a seed, you don't dig it up the next morning to see if it's growing. You trust the soil. You water it. You get sunlight. And you let time do what time does best. The roots take shape long before the flower ever appears. Maybe that's what's happening to you right now. The roots are forming, even if you can't see them yet. I know it's not easy to wait, especially when your heart is tired, when you've been patient for so long, when the silence feels endless. But maybe the waiting is sacred. Maybe it's teaching you how to hold peace without proof. How to believe without evidence. Because the truth is, trust isn't real trust until it's tested. And faith doesn't mean everything will happen your way. It means you'll be okay even if it doesn't. There's a softness that comes when you finally stop rushing your life. You begin to move slower, breathe deeper, listen more. You notice beauty again, the way the sky changes color at dusk, the quiet rhythm of your footsteps, the calm in your chest that says, I'm not lost anymore, because you realize you were never off track. You were just learning to walk with life instead of ahead of it. And it's funny how when you stop pushing, things start flowing. Opportunities show up naturally. The right people appear without effort. Answers come in whispers instead of noise. Life doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to presence. The more you relax into it, the more it opens up to you. Maybe that's why the universe keeps slowing you down, not to punish you, but to align you, to make sure you're ready, to teach you that patience isn't waiting for something outside of you. It's the art of finding peace while everything is still unfolding. So if you're listening to this and feeling behind, take a breath. You're not late. You're not missing anything. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Every chapter you've walked through, every delay, every detour, it's all part of your becoming. Life isn't in a hurry. It's steady, deliberate, intentional, just like you're meant to be. And maybe as you exhale, you can let go of the pressure to know. You can trust that what's meant for you won't need to be chased. It will find you when you're ready to receive it. If these words find you in a quiet moment, maybe subscribe, not for motivation, but as a reminder to stay patient with your process, to trust your timing, and to keep your heart open even when things don't make sense yet. Because someday, you'll look back and realize everything you were waiting for was never late. It was arriving exactly when you were ready. And when it does, you'll smile softly, maybe whisper to yourself, now I understand. You know, sometimes life doesn't fall apart to hurt you. It falls apart to free you, to loosen your grip on what was never meant to stay. And though it hurts, there's a strange kind of beauty in that breaking, because it's often in those moments when everything feels uncertain that your soul finally exhales and whispers, maybe I don't have to hold on so tight anymore. Letting go isn't something we're taught well. We're taught how to build, how to fight, how to keep trying, but no one really shows us how to release, to set something down and walk away gently. Yet, it's one of the hardest and holiest lessons life gives us, because to let go is to trust that even without what you've lost, you'll still be whole. I remember once holding on to a friendship long after it stopped feeling like home. I kept hoping it would return to what it once was, forcing conversations, pretending it didn't hurt. But the more I tried to save it, the more I lost myself. One day I just stopped, not in anger, not in sadness, just quiet acceptance. I realized it wasn't ending to punish me. It was ending to protect me. Some things are meant to last forever. They're meant to help us grow, to show us something and then fade away. Maybe that's the same lesson the monk learned when his cup broke. The cup wasn't just an object. It was a symbol. It reminded him that everything in life is already broken in some way, already changing, already moving towards something new. When we understand that, we stop clinging. We start living lighter. You see, letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It just means you stop trying to control the outcome. You still love, but without grasping. You still dream, but without demanding. You still hope, but with open hands. Because love that's free, love without attachment, is the only kind that lasts. And it's not just about people. We hold on to expectations, plans, versions of ourselves we thought we'd be by now. We cling to what should have been, and that's where pain hides. But when you start to release those expectations, even little by little, life becomes softer. You realize you don't have to have all the answers. You don't need everything to stay the same. You just need to keep showing up, breathing, trusting. Think about the river for a moment. It doesn't cling to the water that passes. It just keeps flowing. It trusts that more will come. You and I, we can learn from that. We can learn to stop holding on to yesterday's moments, yesterday's people, yesterday's versions of us. Because life moves and we move with it. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to simply whisper, "It's okay." It's okay to outgrow things. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to let go of the dream that no longer feels like yours. It's okay to start again. Letting go isn't losing. It's returning to yourself. And maybe tonight, when everything feels too heavy, you can imagine placing those worries, those regrets, those what-ifs in your hands, and one by one, exhale them into the air. They don't belong to you anymore. You're allowed to live lighter. You're allowed to trust again. And if this feels like a message your heart needed to hear, maybe stay with me here. Subscribe, not because I'm promising answers, but because together we can keep walking this quiet path toward peace. A place where we don't cling, we don't chase. We simply breathe and trust and let life unfold just as it's meant to. Because at the end of the day, what's truly meant for you will never need to be forced. It will find its way back, softly, gently in its own time. You know that quiet moment just before dawn, when everything feels still and the world hasn't yet begun to rush? That's what peace feels like inside you when you finally stop trying to fix, prove, or chase anything. It's not loud. It doesn't announce itself. It just sits there, gentle, soft, waiting for you to notice. And maybe that's what meditation really is. Not some big spiritual task, not sitting cross-legged for hours, but just the act of noticing. There was a monk once who showed a student a glass of muddy water. He shook it hard and said, "See, this is your mind." Then he set it down and waited. Slowly, the dirt began to settle and the water turned clear. And this, the monk said, is what happens when you stop shaking it. That's the whole lesson. You don't have to fix your thoughts. You don't have to silence them. You just stop shaking the glass. You let things settle. So many of us walk through life with that glass in our hands, shaking it every second, worrying, comparing, replaying old memories, trying to predict the future. No wonder we can't see clearly. Meditation isn't about changing who you are. It's about giving yourself permission to pause, to breathe, to listen to what's underneath the noise. When you close your eyes and focus on your breath, something beautiful starts to happen. You begin to notice how everything, every thought, every feeling, every fear, comes and goes like waves. You realize that nothing lasts forever, not even the hard stuff. Pain, sadness, anger, they rise, they fall, they fade. And that's when you start to trust again. Because if everything passes, then maybe you don't have to fight it so much. Maybe you just have to let it move through you. I used to think I couldn't meditate because my mind wouldn't stop talking. But then I learned that it doesn't have to. The goal isn't to stop the noise. It's to change your relationship with it. When a thought comes, you don't have to chase it. Just smile at it like an old friend passing by and let it drift. That's enough. That's peace. And you don't need a special place to practice. You can do it while drinking your morning coffee, feeling the warmth of the mug in your hands. You can do it in traffic, taking one deep breath instead of reacting. You can do it when you lie in bed at night, whispering gratitude for one small thing that made the day softer. That's meditation too. It's not about escaping life. It's about being fully in it. Science says meditation lowers stress, improves focus, helps your heart, and heals your mind. But beyond the studies, it gives you something more precious. It gives you yourself back. It's a way to remember who you are underneath all the noise, the calm, kind, steady part of you that's always been there, quietly waiting. And maybe that's why so many of us are drawn to it now. Not to become spiritual, but to feel human again, to feel whole again. So, the next time you catch yourself lost in your thoughts, don't fight it. Just pause. Breathe in. Breathe out. Let the dirt settle. Because when your mind gets quiet, even for a few moments, you'll hear something soft inside you, your own voice, the one that's been whispering all along. You're okay. You always were. If this kind of stillness speaks to you, maybe stay with me, subscribe, and let's keep learning how to breathe through the noise together. Because peace isn't found somewhere far away. It's already here, quietly waiting for you to remember.